The next speaker is Shahid Khan, and he will give us an update on the CCA UK.
Thank you, Lorenza, John, and good morning, everyone. So I've going to talk to you about cholangiocarcinoma UK and give you an update about who we are, what we do. So cholangiocarcinoma UK is a local group which was instigated in 2018. It's affiliated to Basel, the British Association for the Study of the Liver. That's the umbrella organisation. We are a multidisciplinary group of clinicians, scientists and patient advocates. And when we got together, the purpose was to facilitate collaborative research, enhance service development, raise awareness, and basically make lives better for patients with cholangiocarcinoma, hopefully. Our specific aims were to facilitate basic science and clinical research, as well as sample collection, biomarker development. So the idea was it's not just a clinical pathway, but also hopefully a research pathway. To improve the opportunity for collaborative trials in an increasingly financially difficult environment, to fly the flag for cholangiocarcinoma, to be involved in development of national guidelines, advise on policy and ensure best practice going forward, and to optimize clinical management across the country, to monitor epidemiological trends. And we have a web page on the Basel website. We currently have, in terms of general people official members of cholangiocarcinoma UK, and that includes some people from Europe and further afield, we have around 200 people. The current committee is listed up. You probably can't read that. So I'm currently the chair. Helen Mormont from AMF is our patient advocate. We have basic science representatives, Professor David Bates, Luke Bolter, Chiara, and Sheila Jayaraman. Steve Pereira is our endoscopy representative. Hepatology is represented by Simon Rushbrook. Clinical oncology rep is Maria Hawkins, who couldn't be here today. John Bridgewater, Juan Valle are our medical oncology reps. Pathology rep is Tim Kendall from Edinburgh, and surgical reps are Professors Brian Davidson, Nigel Heaton, and Mr. Hassan Malik. And we also have trainee representatives, Pilar Ashido, who's a basic scientist, Leonard Mark Quinn, surgeon, and Izzy Egbaniwe, who's a pathologist. So that's the current committee. So what have we actually done? So, as with all these committees, we don't get paid for being on this committee. It's all voluntary. It's all done in our own time. So how did this all begin? So it actually began in September 2017. So at the time, Professor Graham Alexander, who's a hepatologist, was chair of Basel at the time. And the chair of Basel normally does a 2-year stint. And Graham came up with the idea of having special interest groups within Basel. So for alcohol-related liver disease, fatty liver, autoimmune liver disease, viral hepatitis, etc. And then thought, there should be one for liver cancer in Britain. And actually initially HCC UK was set up, and I was a founding member of HCC UK, and that's chaired by my friend and colleague Aileen Marshall. But he also had some discussions with me and thought it would be important to have a special interest group for cholangiocarcinoma aside from HCC UK, and I agreed. We held our first teleconference in December 2017 and had our inaugural meeting in London in 2018. Setting out our vision, our goals. In January 2019, we were involved in a project with the data project. That was when that sort of began in earnest, that we heard the data from yesterday, a deep dive in the epidemiology of cholangiocarcinoma. Actually, so the latest data from 2020 from the public health database, the cancer registration database, was that in 2020, new cases of HCC in England, 2,790. 2,790 new cases of HCC in 2020. How many new cases of cholangio were there? 2,710. Almost exactly the same. So, and I think still the vast majority of people have no idea. They think cholangio's, that liver cancer is generally rare and it's all HCC, and actually cholangio is up there with HCC. We decided that we'd aim to have an annual meeting open to everyone, and we would alternate. So biannually we would have a general meeting, maybe a clinical focus or everything, but every other year we would have a pure basic science meeting. And so we had our first basic science meeting in Nottingham. We set up a Twitter account. We got some seed funding from the Blenkinsop family. Neil Blenkinsop passed away from cholangiocarcinoma. He was a patient of one of our committee members. And the Blenkinsop family gave us a research grant, which we set aside to seed funding for young researchers. So every meeting we will give a small award for a young researcher with the best abstract. We have also sought to link with other national and international groups. We held a parallel session with the UK Oncology Forum during the first COVID wave. That was done remotely. We formally affiliated with AMMF. We're also affiliated to BARSO, the British Association for Surgical Oncology. We've also joined and affiliated to the Cancer Services Committee of the Royal College of Surgeons. We had our first national webinar in December 2020, which was attended by about 300 people, I think, overall, around the country and also from Europe. And also within our committee members, several of the Cholangiocarcinoma UK committee members have been on the liver advisory group for the whole process of liver transplantation for cholangiocarcinoma, and that was initially led by Professor Nigel Heaton, who's part of our committee, and myself and others on the committee were also on that liver advisory group panel, so we've been involved in that. And our committee largely were the ones approached to update the British Society of Gastroenterology guidelines on cholangiocarcinoma, which was last published in 2012. And we have now written the BSG guidelines. They've been approved by the British Society of Gastroenterology, and they are now they've now been sent for national and international peer review. It went out for peer review about 4 weeks ago. I'm waiting to hear back. One of the key things about the BSG guidelines is that we have explicitly said that cholangiocarcinoma management needs to be done at centres of expertise. All cases need to be discussed at centres of expertise at the very least. And on the back of that, in the data project, we hope to further develop that line to make sure that every single patient in the UK who has cholangiocarcinoma gets the best possible opinion. And that's a long-term project. One of the other things that we've been involved in has been in the approval of new drugs. So, as you know, when any new medication comes out, it has to be NICE approved. And there has been a real flurry of activity in cholangiocarcinoma with immunotherapies and new systemic therapies. When pemigatinib, having had FDA approval, was considered by NICE, it was not approved. And so Cholangiocarcinoma UK, as well as other interested parties and AMMF, really fought and led a rebuttal to NICE against that. And then, I'm not saying it was just because of us that it was approved, but it was approved, and so we are now the recognised voice and lobby group to help with these things. We're also, our members, cholangiocarcinoma UK members, are represented on ENSCA, as we've heard from Chiara, on the Global Cholangiocarcinoma Alliance. Because our group has pathologists, oncologists, radiation oncologists, hepatologists, endoscopists, we have a lot of reach in other groups as well. So my oncologists will go to meetings that I don't go to, I go to meetings that they don't go to, etc. So we can really spread the message in our various home organisations as well. We've had several national virtual meetings. We've contributed to World Cholangiocarcinoma Day, and in February this year we had our second basic science meeting, national science meeting in Nottingham, which was a very successful meeting as well. We've had external sponsorship, particularly from Insight, PC Biotech, Servier and AstraZeneca, and we're very grateful to them for their support. Initially, when we started off, we had seed funding from Basel to the tune of £3,000. That was what we were given to set this whole thing up 5 years ago, and that was it. It's a one-off payment. And so, so we did need to get some sponsorship to help with that. What about so guidelines? What about our impact on national level and supported studies? So, as I said, so we've done this big data project, which you've heard the excellent presentation from Sophie yesterday, which is hopefully all that data is going to be published this year with a bit of luck. As I said, we've had a big impact on, and our committee members, on the pathway to try and get liver transplantation for cholangiocarcinoma accepted, our impact on NICE, our impact on the BSG guidelines, our activities with colleagues in the Global Alliance, World Cholangiocarcinoma Day, ENSCA. And in one of our aims at the beginning a few years ago was to say, you know, we need to try and get some sort of grant funding for cholangio arising from within this committee. So Simon and I, on actually Hassan's instigation, Hassan Malik kept saying, "Oh, let's just get a grant on prevention," and so we did. And so I presented the grant yesterday, and that's something that I don't think that grant would have arisen really if it wasn't for Cholangiocarcinoma UK and the contacts that it's given us around, because we presented that trial proposal to so many people, and so we really had every base covered when we went into that. So in terms of going forward, I think we had a meeting of the committee this morning. I think going forward we want to continue, I think, with our original aims. There's broad agreement within our committee that we, at the end of the day, we've done some reasonable things. I think we've been successful, but we do need to try and actually effect downstream change with policy makers in our country, and that may involve government select committees and other methods. We need to empower patients with cholangiocarcinoma and make sure that any benefits and advances in treatment are actually relayed and actually get to the patients who have cholangiocarcinoma. And I think one of our next big projects going forward is going to be trying to establish centres of expertise. That's not as easy as it sounds. There's lots of technical and logistical and political issues in that, but that's something that I think we'll be working on as well as trying to do everything else that we have been doing up till now. And if anyone wants to be involved in Cholangiocarcinoma UK and join us, you'll be very, very welcome. And you don't have to be in the UK to join Cholangiocarcinoma UK. So that's just a brief update on Cholangiocarcinoma UK's activities. Thank you very much.